Grateful to be here. My name is Kevin Berthia. I am a suicide prevention survivor, advocate, and speaker. Grateful for the opportunity to take part in this wonderful just transformation. I'm here. Got the opportunity to meet this wonderful woman, and she got the opportunity to film me. I am a suicide survivor, 22-time survivor. Yes, been in that dark place, understand that dark place, and have since went on to become a nationally known speaker. Just grateful for the opportunity to be here.
What's the difficult part of this underwater torture session?
I think the most difficult part, I suffer from severe anxiety, so kind of just calming myself internally and allowing myself to just be free and be okay with being in the water. Thank you for having me.
What's up, everybody? What's going on?
Good evening, good evening, good evening.
We are very excited. We're excited. We have a special guest coming on with us in a few. He's going to join us
Wednesday.
But happy Wednesday to everyone. You already know what to do.
Share, and share. Life.
I've already shared mine.
Oh, look at you. I'm good. That's because I beat him last week, y'all. So he on a mission to make sure you last. I was only last week. Bam.
We was playing the video. I said, let me go on and share this real quick. So I'm going to actually tag Kevin.
Okay.
All righty. We finally got my bro on here to come. So I'm excited. He's going to talk about his journey. We have a few questions for him, and then we're going to let you guys enjoy the rest of the night because I got to get to the gym. I've not been to the gym.
Oh, Lord.
I've been working from home, literally. So, yeah, I need to get to the gym today. Yeah, I do. I need to get back focused. But I hope everyone is doing well on this wonderful, great Wednesday. The weather is beautiful outside. It's really, really nice out this way.
Up that way. I was getting ready to say, make sure you say up because down here is smoky as all get out.
Well, it's smoky here. It's smoky. But we don't, but it's nice. It wasn't hot. It's like in the 70s, I believe. And it's a nice breeze, nice wind blow. It's really, really nice outside compared to what it had been. But it's really nice outside. Terrence, you have any announcements before we bring our guests in?
Actually, I don't.
We have a couple of things coming on. Well, let's talk about I have to remind him about his own stuff.
Look, when I'm over here now, I'm trying to peck and type to catch up. Now he can talk mess.
Our special guest is Kevin. He's a suicide survivor, so he's going to talk about his journey and everything throughout what's been going on with him, and he's been speaking all over the place, saving lives and just his whole journey. So we appreciate him joining us in a few. Hey, our sister Celeste is on. Hello, sis.
Hello.
Appreciate you joining us this evening. And I did have a couple of announcements, but let's support Bay Area. Let's support our own J Red as he's doing J Red Hoodish and Holy Comedy Tour on October 7th, 2023 at 7 p.m. at the historic Paramount Theater. Let's sell that out for him. Let's support him. J Red has supported and went beyond supporting everybody event, everybody musical, everybody concert, everybody play or whatever you're having, church anniversary, pastor anniversary. He has always been there and showed his support. So let's do the same for him. Let's do the same for him. Listen, we are also praying for my brother and the kids. On tomorrow they will celebrate my sister, my Sonny Hawkins' life. Let's pray for her mother, Okima, her father, her sister, her brother. She has family. And let's pray for her cousins, her aunts, everybody in her family, her god sisters, her best friends, everyone. Let's keep them uplifted as they celebrate tomorrow, the life of Lady Sunny Hawkins. Lady Sunny Hawkins. All right. Terrence, I think let's talk about this. This is what I want to talk about. Listen, we have not really said much about it, but I need Seattle people to help me sell out this Seattle trip that's coming up March 29th through April 1st.
Yes, get your tickets, y'all. Go
to ChristopherTerrenceJones.com and go get your tickets for this Christopher Wine Trip 2024. Let's make it happen. All right. Get down that information. Let's make it happen. February 3rd, 2024. We back. We finna do this event. We finna do it up. I'm excited about it. We're gonna honor some of our local gospel legends and pay tribute to a couple of gospel greats. And I got a couple of friends coming to come join us and celebrate. And then we're putting this choir together, and Dwayne Woods is the vocal director, and my little brother Josh Nash is the music director. So I'm excited. We back in action. And I got some of the singers, folks doing background. And this is exciting for me. I'm happy. I'm really, really happy. You good, man? Our guest is here. So you want to bring our guest on? Are you ready for him?
I'm good. Make sure you guys go right now and share. Tell a friend. Don't keep it to yourself. This is the show that you really want to be a part of, and you wanted to reach out to others. So please share this video, share the page.
Listen, I was finna get killed. So I got to say this. A big shout out to my little sister, my blood sister, Miss Nadia Khan. Today is her 28th birthday. And she's in LA at Disneyland. So I got
happy birthday, Nadia.
So it's our little sister birthday. She is the baby of the bunch.
You was about to get beat up.
I was gonna get beat up.
But wait, we forgot this. Happy anniversary to Jerry and Ben.
Exactly. That we totally forgot that too. So I'm so glad you said that. Happy birthday to our brother. They always come on.
Not birthday, anniversary.
Anniversary. Sorry. Happy anniversary to them. I think they celebrated their 31st anniversary, if I'm not mistaken. So that's good. That's really, really good. They doing it big. They 31 years in marriage. So, and they my people. They my people. What's up, David? David's on here. Good to see you. Good to see you. All right. So we're going to bring our guest on. I'm so happy to have him on. So we're going to just go on and bring him on. Then I'll talk, and then we can just talk and just jump right on in.
You're right. 31 years. You're correct.
31 years. So happy anniversary to Ben and Jerry, and happy birthday to our little sister,
Nadia.
Love you so much, sis. You already. I know you're having fun. We've talked to you all day. I know you're having fun out in LA, and we'll see you in the morning when you get home. All right. Come on, Kevin. What's up, bro?
What's up, brother? How you doing? You hear me?
Good. Yep. You're good.
Good evening. Good evening.
How you doing, man? How you doing? How's everybody doing?
Blessed and highly favored.
Doing good, bro. Doing good. Thank you so much for coming on here and joining. I finally got you.
Yeah.
Making it happen. So I really, really, really definitely appreciate you coming on and you're gonna tell us your story and just do your thing, bro. Terrence, you want to start first, or you want me to go? How you want to do?
Let's let him just dive in. Let's go that way.
Okay. Kevin, tell us your story, man.
Cool, man. I appreciate the opportunity, man. Grateful to have me. It's a million people out here with a million stories. Grateful to have mine. So, like I say, I'm no different than anybody else. I just have a picture from the worst day of my life that's been photographed. And I always want to tell people, everybody's had the worst day of their life. You just probably don't have a picture. I just have a picture to describe mine, and that way I have no choice but, to talk about this. I've been in the mental health field for the last 10 years. Got into the mental health field in 2013. Didn't even know the mental health field exists. Didn't even know it was therapists, clinicians, millions of people out there in the world struggling, and most of that is because we come from a predominantly African American community that didn't talk about mental health. So I grew up my whole life struggling with something internally that I didn't know externally other individuals in the world were struggling with. So I felt like I was alone. The root of who I am is I'm adopted. And so for our community, it's one of those words that doesn't really come up because somebody in the family picks up picks up, the kid. You think about, somebody, the aunt, the uncle, somebody. Even time a kid is born into the black community, somebody picks up that child. So I felt like a unicorn growing up, knowing that the world looked at me. I was lucky enough to be adopted by an African American family, so the world looked at me as being connected to this family, but I looked at myself as being disconnected because I didn't look like my biological. I didn't look like my adoptive mom. I didn't look like my adoptive dad. I didn't look like my adoptive sisters. I didn't look like anybody. But yet I went into the world, and I was triggered every day because when you go into the world, you see people that match up. We look like who we belong to, and I didn't know who I belonged to. I didn't know where I belong. You think about. I don't think we realize you're around people that are blood related to you. So you see somebody that looks like you, something of resemblance. And I grew up in a world where I didn't have anybody that looked like me, so it was always struggling for me to go out into the world and still try to act like everything was okay. And I didn't want to talk about it because I was old enough to realize, and in my brain, that I was, I was lucky enough to be adopted. And my mom always told me compare my problems to that of the world. So I always looked at it as I was lucky. I should be grateful, even though I hated the idea that I was adopted. From the ages of about 5 to 13, I stayed in a structured life. That's why I tell people as early as age 5, I knew that I had something going on, and as early as age 5, I knew how to hide that from the world. I was a kid in the '80s. Now imagine what kids are doing nowadays. I mean, you got to think about the dynamics, how much things have changed. If I knew in the '80s that I had to create this front man, that no matter what was going on with me inside, I never wanted to show that on the outside. I created him in the '80s. And so I never wanted people to really deal with how I felt. I never wanted to deal with how I felt, and I never wanted anybody to look at me and ask me how I felt. So I always knew people looked at you and took you face value. If I was happy, even to this day, we look at people. If somebody's like happy and they're like smiling, we don't look at them and think they're secretly sad. And it's the same thing if they're crying, we don't look at them and think that they're secretly happy. I mean, we just take people at face value. So I knew as long as I and like kept everything on the inside and externally showed that I had it together, that nobody would ever question it. And so that's what I did. I stayed in a structured life from the ages of 5 to 13. Like that, like every day I had a structure. My mom and dad put me in a lot of sports growing up. So those sports gave me an identity. You figure when people are not playing sports, they struggle when they're not playing sports. Here's why: because in sports, I had an identity. When I played basketball, point guard, dribble the ball up the court, facilitate the offense. You're the point guard. You know what I'm supposed to do, and then I have that built-in compassion and understanding from that team that supports me in my cause of what I'm doing. So not only do I have an identity, I'm connected to something that's bigger than me, and that I get that support. That's what people get from sports. If I'm playing soccer, same thing. Score the goal, Kevin. You're the forward. Score the goal. If I'm playing football, wide receiver, catch the ball. I have a distinct role inside of a community of team that builds me, and so that's why people when they're playing sports, they don't necessarily struggle. I struggled when I was not playing sports because I had a defining role. I didn't know who Kevin Berthia was outside of the basketball court, outside of the baseball field, outside of the football field, but I knew exactly who he was inside of those sports. And so because I always had a practice, I always had a game, and I stayed busy. I went to school. I got up in the morning from ages 5 to 13. I went to school. After school, I had basketball practice. After basketball practice, I had baseball practice. After baseball practice, I had another basketball practice at the boys' club. I had games on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays and Saturdays. And I was in church all day Sunday. I had a schedule, meaning that I was too busy to worry about how I felt. The only time I was ever by myself was when I was alone, when I was at night, when I slept. And that was the only time that I was by myself. Any other time I was functioning at a high level around people because I wanted them to identify and see that I had everything going on with me. That everything was fine with me, but I was struggling every single night, crying every single night, but I never wanted to identify these things. This went on my whole entire, pretty much my whole childhood. I never wanted to look at mirrors. By the time I turned, 10 years old, I had mastered it to where nobody, you would never have known that I was dealing with anything because I never wanted people to see it. I had figured out what to say, when to say it, how to dot every I, how to cross every T. So I was ahead of it before you were ahead of it. But it was the most exhausting thing that I ever had to do in my life, is try to pretend to be something that I wasn't, because I have to constantly keep up with the notions of everything around me is changing, but everything on the inside of me has to change with everything on the outside of me. I'm constantly keeping up. Now we watching our youth, we watching how a person is trying to evolve. on the person, environmentally, to everything that's around him, not knowing that internally he's dealing with all these different things, and we haven't been taught how to love ourselves, how to properly um, um, you know, protect our emotions, and how to process emotions, how to deal with feelings. We haven't been taught any of these things. So we get through life and we go through life not knowing how to deal with things. And we internalize it, thinking that that's the best way to deal with it, and is not deal with it at all. And I did that over and over and over again. The turning point in my life pretty much was 1995, when I moved from elementary to junior high. And I always tell people, we always congratulate the current, as kids transition from elementary to junior high to high school to college. We have these celebrations, we have these parties. We don't understand, and go to our children and go to our loved ones and ask them, are they really okay with that change? See, it's
Mhm.
different environmentally when you change from class to class, because sometimes you can take the same classmates to the next class. You can sometimes you're in the same building and seeing the same teachers. You're around the same environment. But when you change the environment, you change schools, sometimes it's a different environment. Why? Because it's a different principle. It's just like a church. I mean, we're flowed from the pastor. The church is derived from how the pastor is. That's how the church has evolved, and that's how most schools are designed, by who the head is. And if the principal is not compassionate and understanding and loving, the teachers are not going to be compassionate, understanding, and loving. And so we don't realize that the structure, everything changes, and this is built up anxiety that comes with change. Every human on the face of the planet has anxiety. We just don't realize it and deal with the levels of how much we deal with it, because we've been
Mhm.
taught to disguise it. We've been taught to mask it. We've been taught not to deal with it. And it's different levels for everybody. You component and compartmentalize it and you throw that in with a mental illness. And now you're dealing with two things you don't even realize at the time. And that's why we're getting overwhelmed with so many different issues, because we don't understand what we're up against. I didn't understand none of these different things. And so I was dealing with all these different things. I'm transitioning from elementary to junior high. The same year as I'm transitioning from elementary to junior high, my parents were separated and later on divorced. Now that completely changed the dynamic of my life. Because at 13 years old, I was faced with understanding of why the two people I looked at as being the greatest two people on earth, my mom being my hero and my dad being my hero, the most two loving people on earth, how could they not mesh? And see, I didn't understand divorce until I went through it. See, as a child, you don't get it, and so I internalized the pain of these two loving people separating, and I took the blame for it. I said it had to be me, because I didn't. That's why
Mhm.
I'm saying, as parents, if you're going through a divorce, or if you are separating, or if you are having issues, you have to communicate with your child so they don't internalize and think that it's them, because I thought I made it about me. And because nobody explained it to me, I said it had to be me. I was the last child in, and I was the only one adopted. I felt like my dad was overcompensating for trying to take care of a child that he probably shouldn't have been having to take care of. I didn't look at it as two parents that just get along. So when they divorced and later on separate, I mean, when they separated and later divorced, it was like I lost my dad. I lost my family. I lost the one thing that was keeping me together. And for the first time in my life, I felt adopted and I felt alone. That put me into the world, and that separated me from God, because that took me away from the church. That took me away from me learning the structures of the dynamics of a father, of being around a man, and being around the family components of eating at a table and going on family vacations, and the responsibilities of my dad were no longer there, and he lost his identity because he needed to be in the relationship. He needed A lot of fathers can't be a father outside of the relationship, and I don't think we
Mhm.
realize that. I don't
Right.
think we don't give them credit enough, because we take them from relationships and we don't understand how much of the need there is to be inside of that relationship in order to know. It's like I'm a better father when I'm there and hands on to know exactly what my daughter needs at Tuesday on a 2 o'clock afternoon, rather than not being in her life and I'm not knowing her. How can I be like, it's a different component, and I don't think we understand that. It's different when you take the components out of we take the father out of the house. And so now I didn't realize that until I became my own father, until I was taken out of my own house, and then I understood my own dad's pain, my own mom and dad's separation, and mom and dad's divorce. But at the time, I couldn't understand it. I took on that component, and it was so hard for me to adapt to things and be surrounded by all these different emotions, along with having to go to a new school, where at the new school is not only about keeping your emotions in check is about your reputation is everything. So I had to go to school and pretend that I was something I wasn't and keep up with a reputation that of something I created from elementary, take it to junior high, along with dealing with the emotions of having to feel like my parents just got divorced. Me and the kids, when I went to school, when I went to junior high, I went to one of the worst junior high schools in Oakland, California at the time. I went to King of States. And it was heavy police presence. I mean, fights every day. It was ridiculous. It was 3 years of my life that completely changed the dynamic of who I am because you were around things I would have never been. Me and the kids, like we call them, I lived in the hills for the first 13 years of my life. But when my parents separated, it put me in the flats. It put me down on the bottom, and separated me from what I knew. And so now I'm around kids that I probably would have never had anything in common with. But now that my parents separated and divorced. Now I have everything in common with these kids because I went from eating every single day with a family to now I'm fending for my dinner at night from a liquor store across the street from me. And it's different now. My dinner became potato chips and burritos and whatever I can fend from because my dad wasn't there anymore because he had a gambling addiction. At 13 and a half, 14 years old, I was living with my dad, had my own apartment because he was never around. I would see my dad maybe once or twice that week, because he would go to work. After work, he would go to the racetrack. After the racetrack, he would go to the one place that's open all night. That's the casino. And so I didn't have that component of seeing him. So I literally was taking on ownership of making sure bills was paid and making sure everything was okay around the house and making sure that everything was cleaned up. I'm a kid. I was stripped of the idea of being a child, and because I had to grow up so fast. The next couple of years, I found myself just all over the place. 14 years old, my first attempt. Now I had already thought about dying my whole life, but I never attempted. Now it's different. I always tell people, you want to learn to understand the mental health field. It's two different type of people. It's people that think about attempting, and it's people that actually attempt, because it's a different variation of person. And I think that we don't understand, and we put the two together, and it's totally different. We're totally two different people. It's people that think. Thinking about it is one thing. Doing it, it's actually attempting increases. As soon as you attempt, your ideation level increases. People that think about attempting and haven't attempted, they can go throughout the day and they don't and they're not triggered by certain things. They can only they can only trigger themselves. Once you attempt, everything triggers you. Because you can go outside in the world and now you can watch a car going by and wish that that car just coming to you. You can go up an elevator and wish that the elevator crashed. Every single thing you think about dying inside of it. And so your ideation levels increase, and now you're dealing with it on another level. That's why I always tell people, once you attempt, you got to get some real help. And here I was, 14 years old, was my first attempt, and I never got the real help. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I took the family van, my uncle's family van, took that family van, was going to go up to Skyline Boulevard, drive off the cliff, and on an open embankment. And it never, I got up there, and it was literally or guardrails. That was the only thing that stopped me from driving off that. 14 years old, never drove a car before, drove up there, and literally, if that guardrail wouldn't have been there, I wouldn't even be here to this day. And that was my first attempt. And I remember going and smacking the car into that guardrail, and then really coming out of it, and kind of coming to it, and then young, not knowing what to do, I had to go home. And when I went home, I didn't tell my mom that that was a attempt, that I almost took my own life. I got in trouble for joyriding. Nobody knew until maybe about 4 years ago that that was my first attempt. So for almost 30 years, I held something that deep and that serene into my soul. I held on to that. Imagine the turmoil on the inside of me to hold on something like that. We hold on to things that we think that are going to separate us from the world, not knowing that internally holding on to them, and that's what separates us from the world, because we are connected by the things that we go through. It's not we connected by ourselves, because nobody on earth goes through things by themselves. There's not one person that's been through something that ain't nobody else in the world have gone through. Like, there's not nothing on earth that somebody's went through that somebody in the Bible hasn't already gone through. Like, we have to understand that this world was this world well before us, and this world will be us, will be this well after us. And we have to understand the components of what we need to do to survive. We have to understand it. And because nobody taught us these things, nobody understands us and makes mental health as simple as it needs to be simple, as it needs to be explained. We go into things and internalize things, and then we get overwhelmed, not knowing what to do. And that's what I did. My next couple of years were all over the place, because now I got this attempt under my belt, and now my ideation levels are all over the place. But it's still, still got to go into the world and pretend like I'm okay. Like, imagine I just try to take my own life, and I have to go into the world and pretend that didn't happen. Pretend that I'm not having these triggering events every single time I'm going outside. And the things got worse and worse and worse as I'm getting older. You figure by the time I got to 16, I spent 3 years inside that junior high, keeping myself together, keeping my reputation intact, making sure everybody knew that I was the life of the party. I was jovial Kev. Nobody. Back then we talked about people. That's how we kept people away from you. And see, I had to realize something. In order for you to talk about somebody, you got to be in a dark place. And because I lived in that dark place after my parents' divorce, what made me great at talking about people was because I lived in that dark place. So I would keep people away from me. And once I learned that talking about people is what's going to keep people away from me, I became the best, what we call it capping. I became the best capper there was because it kept people away from me. You couldn't get close to me. Matter of fact, by the time I got to ninth grade year, I had people afraid to walk by me. That's how great I was because I would have point because in order for you to be able to point out negative in something in somebody, you got to see negative in yourself. Because I can see a million negative things in me, I can point out a million negative things in people. I was just pointing out the things in people that I already had. It was that were I was torn with inside of me. It wasn't that they were that I was better than them. I was just seeing the dark side of what I already had on inside of me. And that's what I tell people. It's just I was just identifying it. And so I was just picking at people and pulling at people. By the time I got to 10th grade year, I had built a reputation to go to high school that I was this, jovial guy that had all the answers, life of the party. People were trying to be my friend. They didn't know how dark a place and how torn I was in. They had no idea. But now I got to high school and now it's all about I have to keep up with this reputation, not along with getting to high school. And now it's all about how you look. Fashion is in. What kind of shirt is that? What kind of shoes are those? Is that backpack match your pants? Like all this crazy stuff. The hardest thing I've ever had to do in life was try to pretend to be something I wasn't. That's the hardest thing I've ever had to do in life. Nothing I've ever had to do in life has been harder than trying to pretend to be something that I wasn't because I had to get up every single day and try to anticipate how to be, what to say. It's tiring, but I had to keep up with it because I already built up this image. I don't have no choice to go back to because I've already built up this image of this person that who I am. So I'm not going to dare change this image now. By the time I remember I got to 11th grade year, I remember they had an assembly for the 11th and 12th graders. And I remember this guy was asking people what they wanted to be. And people were standing up with confidence. And they were saying, I want to be this when I grow up. I want to be this when I grow up. And as soon as you said what you wanted to be, he was telling you the steps to help you on your way to get to where you wanted to be. And I found myself submerged and I found myself, dropping back into the back because I was afraid of him pointing to me because as soon as he said what you want to be when you grow up, everything on the inside of me said, I'm not even going to be alive. I'm going to be dead. I had no goals or aspirations because the frontal lobe of a child. That's why you have to realize something. A child cannot see past 5 to 7 years. That's why when you talking to your children, we're explaining to them and we're looking at it from our frontal lobe where we can see 20, 30, 40 years into the future. And we're not looking at their frontal lobe who only can see the 5 to 7 years in the future. They can't see what you can see. That's why when you talk to them, you have to put your mind and understanding in their shoes. I didn't see the future. All I saw was I wasn't going to be alive. I wasn't playing sports to become to go to the NBA. I had no goals or aspirations to go to NFL. I wasn't trying to go to the major leagues. I was playing sports because it kept me alive. Was I good enough? Absolutely. I wasn't looking at it as be a star athlete, find your way out. I was playing because it gave me identity.
Wow.
Sports was my drug. Sports gave me a way to keep me alive. So I didn't see it as like, oh, you can be successful in sports. You can get a contract and live your life. Like, no. And so I look back at times where I never wanted to be great. I was afraid of being great. Everybody always say, why do you always pass the ball in basketball? Because I didn't want to take the shot because I didn't want to be great. I didn't want to be great because if I be great, then that puts all the pressure on me. And I didn't expect myself to be alive that long to live up to the expectations of people. I'm living up to my own expectations. Kevin, why you don't score the goals anymore? Because I don't want to be great. And people that know me, they will look back in my life and be like, I remember when you used to pass up open shots and you used to always just pass the ball. Because I never wanted to be great. I never wanted to expectations to supersede myself. Because my expectation was to die. And if I ever live up to your expectations, then I'll have to live longer and live in this pain longer. And I'm not about to do that. I'm not about to do that. And so by the time 12th grade year came, I was trying to fail myself out of high school. I stopped going to class. I stopped going to everything because at this point, I realized that if I got out of high school, what would be the plan do? So when we talk to our seniors and we look at our seniors, we have to understand: are they prepared for that next level of life? You know, are they understanding that the dynamic of everything goes from structure to where people are telling you what time to get up and helping you get up? You know, because we help our youth get up all the way up until they graduate high school, right? And then we put on the expectation that they're supposed to wake themselves up. They're supposed to have this, and we got to understand the dynamics. There's so much changes in that first freshman year of college, and I don't think we put a big emphasis on it. We send them off and we change their whole environment. We change their whole state. And I'm not saying that it's wrong for kids to go to college, but I said we need to prepare them structurally before these things dynamically change and impact them. And then we wonder why they want to come back. We wonder why they structurally can't adapt to these certain things. I was failing myself. I was trying to fail. So when I graduated on what a June, what was our graduation, like June 14th of 2000? Hottest day of the year. I never forget it. It was 107 degrees. It was ridiculous in Oakland that day. I was trying to not graduate that day. I was hoping that they didn't call my name. When they called my name, I was just as surprised as everybody. Because I had known I was trying to do my hardest to bail myself out of that. Soccer coach of mine took a video of mine and presented it to this college in San Francisco, City College of San Francisco. I guess they back then call it a highlight film, and because my coach gave him that video. That started this conversation of me possibly going to City College of San Francisco, and I didn't have a plan after high school. I don't know what I was going to do, but I didn't have a plan. I'm from Oakland, man. You know, from Oakland, I think I probably been to the city maybe twice in my whole life before I graduated high school.
Wow.
That's just the reality. I mean, we go to the city now back and forth, but back then, what was the point? It was no point to go to Oakland. I mean, there was no point to go to San Francisco. Like, what if you didn't have family out there? I didn't know anybody. Like, we wasn't from Oakland, man, from Deep East Oakland. We ain't. There's no point to go to. You know, it ain't no point. It's no point to go over there. So I saw myself going over there as a chance for something to be different. See, the biggest problem that we have in mental health is life. That people face in mental health is life will get better without you fixing anything. So you will watch your life get better, and you might not fix anything, but you'll watch things get better, and you'll think maybe I don't have to fix anything. I watched my life get better. See, all I did was change my environment. The same problems I had were going to follow me to that environment, but because my environment changed, I felt that my life was going to change. And yes, things got better, you know, in the beginning, but because I structurally didn't handle any issues before I got there, eventually they were going to come out, and they came out in the form of me. When I got into a relationship, I met a girl like we normally do. We want to, meet somebody, and before we handle things internally and get the things we need to do internally to fix ourselves, we meet somebody, and she had just as much problems as I did, and we argued. And in these arguments, because I've never argued with anybody, because I built up this reputation inside myself where I never had to argue with anybody my whole life, arguing with her would bring things inside of me that I never was prepared to deal with. Now I'm having to deal with anger, rage, all these different things are coming from an argument with this woman. When we arguing every single day, I don't even know what we had to argue about. We didn't have kids, we didn't have mortgage, we didn't have any of the things that most people, inside of a relationship argue about. But because we had so many things internally wrong with us, we just externally argue about everything, and so we clashed. When you think about somebody, when you think about a relationship, you're trying to put two people who come together from two different backgrounds. You've been raised two different ways. You believe in two different things. You handle structurally two different things. You're so different as it is, and you're trying to mesh all the things together. We wonder why relationships and things don't work, but because we don't understand the dynamics of what two people are going through. That you have to be on the same page. Communication has to be there in order for you to understand each other. Like, because you're coming from so many different areas and so many different components. What I'll do in a situation is not the same thing you'll do. You'll kind of do something similar, but because you don't have the same dynamic, we clashed. Yeah. And I watched this clash, and as a young guy clashing and watching ourselves clashing, I watched myself get things. It was getting things worse and worse. On one particular argument, I'm 19 years old at the time. I'm I'm overwhelmed because I've been arguing with this girl going on months now. I can't get through to her, and I'm trying to figure out what our problems are. And at the time, she got kicked out of her house, and she's moved. We living with my mom at the time, which is a bad thing because my mom believes in that. You got to be married first. So I didn't beg my mom first to live with us, and her only wish is you guys can't argue. Of course, we get to her house. First thing we do is argue. So I get up in that morning. My mom says, I got to talk to you as soon as I get back from work, and I was upset and I couldn't control my anger. And I remember, I was trying to get out the house because here this girl goes. She about to start with me again, and I'm not about to argue. So I'm just trying to get out the house at this point because I don't want to face her because I'm angry. So as I'm going out the house, lo and behold, as I'm going out the house, just how the enemy works, biggest knife in the house was just sitting there as I'm going out the house. As I'm going out the house, I grab that knife and I walk out the house. My older sister at the time, 8 years apart, she's never seen me upset. She, watch me grab that knife and run out the house. What do you do when somebody grabs a knife and run out the house? You don't know what to do. She called the Oakland Police Department. When they found me, and they found me on the stairs on the side of my house. But when they found me, I had this knife to my neck, and I was sitting there. Now, from your end, and from most people end, is this is why this is my assignment in life, to explain mental health and explain the dark place. Because on your end, you see me, black man, right? Young black man with a knife to my neck, right? That's all you see. And most people will say he's crazy, crazy black man with a knife to your neck, right? Boom, right? Let me give you my angle from a dark place, from a dark space, from the person who's inside of this, right? My angle is I'm in control. It's the first time in my life that I'm in control. It's the first time in my life that nobody's going to dictate what's going to happen to me. It's the first time in my life that I am physically in control. It may not be a good control to you, but for me, it's I'm in control. I control the situation and I control the narrative. And so we have to understand before we result to judge somebody, we have to understand their why. Before we jump into the narrative of judging somebody, we have to understand and pull back the layers and get that they have a why. They have a reason for why they're doing that. Everybody has a reason for why they're doing it. And until we understand the reason and deal with the why, then we would never calculate and understand mental health. We would never save people. We would never get to a point where we identify what's really going on with inside of people until we have a ministry of dealing with the why. Who, what, when, how. The most important part, the why. Like the why. We don't deal with the why. The why, the why, the why. And I think that my why got overwhelmed. My why got to a point where people didn't get it. And so I got to a point where I didn't get it, and I always tell people you gotta comply with law enforcement, because if you don't, you never want to be tased. I was tased because for 15 minutes I kept that knife to my neck, and they wasn't having it. So I always tell people, you please comply. You never want to be tased, because that's one of the worst electric experiences you can face. But after I was tased, I was taken to psychiatric hospital John George. Now I never even knew these places existed, right? You know, you think about something. This is back in the day. This is not, when we talk about mental health back then, and you saw mental health on the TV, you saw people in white stray coats, and it was made fun of. We didn't. So when I got to this place and I saw these people and they were screaming at the top of their lungs, I stigmatized everybody in there, because I said, I don't belong in this place. Why am I here? I didn't realize that I was just better at disguising what I was dealing with. I was dealing with the same issues that the man or woman on the outside was yelling at the top of their lungs with dealing with. Where I'm no different than the man right now in downtown Oakland that's screaming at the top of his lungs, that's half naked and smells like everything that foul on earth. You know the difference between me and him? Nothing. I've probably made worse decisions than him. The better decision is I said yes and he said no. It's a difference. And I think that people got to understand, before we pass judgment on people, we got to understand that we are one decision away from being in that situation like that person. We are one decision away from being in that on that bridge, or in that situation, or in that dark place. One triggering event from being on that ground, making these ill-fated decisions that come against our family. We are one decision away. And I think that because I live my life like that, it gives me the built-in compassion not to ever judge anybody in this world. And I was in that place, and I said, I got to get out of here. And I remember that the doctors and nurses coming in, and they came in and they told me it was the first time in my life. Imagine at 19 years old, the first time in your life you heard the word depression, you heard the word mental health, you heard the word 5150 and suicide and all these different things. I'm 19 years old, and I told them, sir, ma'am, I'm 19 years old. I've watched the Channel 2 news every day, right? Elaine Corral, Dennis Richmond. I started naming off the acres so they can know I'm serious. I've been to every assembly. I've never heard the word mental health ever. I've watched Jeopardy every single night. I watch Will of War. I've never. I'm informed and with the world, and because this is back then, we didn't have Google, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have all these different things that we have to explain information. I thought that I was the only person in the world that was dealing with this thing. So I lied. So all the things they're telling me, nah, you're not telling me something this now at 19. So I lied. And for the next couple years, I tried to go to outpatient. I tried to go to therapy. 6 different clinicians who provided me 6 different medications. They made me feel like everything that I was telling them was wrong. I should be over my childhood issues. I shouldn't be dealing with the adoption. I shouldn't be dealing with the divorce. Everybody made me feel like I was over it, prescribed me all these different medications that were wrong. I mean, for the next couple of years, I dropped myself out of college. I found myself spiraling out of control. I started looking up more attempts. I started doing attempt after attempt after attempt. The next couple of years, I found myself, there is no, when people say, you didn't see the years go by, there are no clocks in a dark place. You know why there's no casino? You know why there's no clocks in casinos? Because they don't want you to lose track of. They don't want you to keep track of time. They don't. They want to keep you in there and let you get and soak all the money out of you. In the dark place, there's no clocks at all. You don't know what the dark place is? Do this exercise. 10 seconds, keep your eyes closed, right? What do you see when you close your eyes? Nothing but darkness. Imagine that you had to make every decision. This is all you saw, complete darkness, but you had to feel everything. We have to understand what mental health is so that we stop judging people and we stop thinking that people need to show their pain. People need to, this invisible disease. You're not going to always see people's pain. So I found myself spiraling out of control and dealing with all these different issues and dealing with all these different emotions, but I never wanted to deal with how I really felt. Right now I'm 21 years old. I got about 8 different suicide attempts under my belt. I didn't start looking up stuff. I'm all over the place. So I weeded myself off medication. I told my mom I'm not going outpatient, not going to therapy, and I'm just going to go back to living a busy life because I try. So when people say they try to get help, it's not that people don't try to get help. It's that we don't have solutions in place for people when they're ready to get help. We have to redefine what the mental health field looks like until we get solutions. And when people come in for asking for real help, we're going to constantly get people that are going to say, I'm not ready to get help because you're not ready to provide the natural resources that's going to put me in place. I don't want you to handle my problem with a problem. I'm living in my problem. I need you to handle my problem with a solution. We have to get better at giving people solutions rather than trying to let them live in just in their problem. And because I didn't have solutions, I kept living in my problem and living in my problem. I went back to just keeping myself busy again, right? Putting myself in busy mode, got back into school, lied, started going back to work. Now I'm back into school, working 2 jobs. Nobody knew that I had 8 attempts. Nobody knew that I was on and off of medication and I had lied about all these different things. I went back to living this busy life and I'm structurally allowing myself to continue going on with this. Next thing prepared me was something that I never was going to prepare myself. The one thing that none of us are ever prepared for, parenthood. The one hood that we would never prepare for, parenthood. Now, all this stuff I had going on, I never was prepared to be a father. My daughter was supposed to be born June 23rd of 2004. She came April 6th. Not only was I not prepared for parenthood, I was never prepared for prematurehood. There's nothing in the manuscripts that prepares you for when your child comes out and she's premature. When your child comes out and they're the size of the palm of your hand. When you can fit your child in the palm of your hand, nothing prepares for that. When my daughter came out and she had to go inside a glass incubator, that's when I died. The 6 weeks of her spending in the hospital and then she had to be in that glass incubator, that's when I died. It wasn't because of the adoption. It wasn't because of the divorce. I have been finding coping mechanisms to deal with that. I died the moment I watched my daughter be in that glass incubator knowing that she was fighting for her life. And nobody ever explained why. So just like naturally, like the divorce, like the adoption, I internalized it and blamed myself. It had to be one of the million arguments me and her mom had. That's why she's out. That's why she came out. So I struggled for that 6 weeks while she was out. By the time she got out, I was so physically all overwhelmed that I remember getting her coming home from the hospital. I had to go to the fire department because I couldn't even get the seatbelt on the seatbelt. They thought I was on drugs or something because I couldn't physically, my brain wouldn't tell me how to put the seatbelt for the seatbelt for the car seat.
Mm-hmm.
I was all over the place. And they looking at me like, dude, this guy on drugs, high or something. He can't even put a simple, I couldn't do it. So I got her home for a week and it was just a bliss because for a week, it wasn't about me. For a week, it was about her. And that week was short lived because I remember getting the medical bill from my daughter's stay and it was sent to my house and it completely threw off everything. And this is back in the day when you get a little envelope and they send you the bill and they itemize everything. It's not like now where they send you an e-bill and you can look it up and everything is right there. This is itemized about at least 9 pages. Boom, boom, boom. At the end of the 9 pages, it was totaled a bill that totaled up to $250,000. Now, my grandfather taught me protect and provide. That's what your responsibility are as a man. I had already messed up her protection because she was fighting for her life. She had to fight for her life. She was premature. I had a pretty nice, decent job at the post office. I was working as a casual. I looked at myself as maybe having a possibility of trying to provide. That was quickly over because I got this $250,000 bill. I'm young. I never see myself. Come on, I'm never gonna pay this. And this is back then where you call a couple places and I call the corporate insurance companies. They're telling me no, you're responsible for this piece, this percentage, and I knew that percentage I was never gonna be able to come up with. I eventually lost my job a couple weeks later due to me being doing some silly stuff at the job and trying to get that bill paid off and got caught up in some mess and I ended up losing my job. So October 2004, I lost my job. All my coping mechanisms, everything I possibly had. Christmas came in 2000 in 2005. December 25th, 2005 came. And I not only didn't have the money to pay for a gift for my daughter because I was going at it with my mother's daughter at the time. The mother of my daughter at the time, we clashed, and I couldn't even see my daughter on Christmas. Her first Christmas, I didn't even see her. My New Year's resolution for 2005 was not to be alive. The only reason why I was alive March 11, 2005 is because my mom's birthday is February 15th, and I wanted to be alive long enough to take her to dinner and have her, I took her to dinner February 15th, 2005. I was saying goodbye from February 15th to March 11, 2005. I literally did everything possible to prepare myself to die. I didn't eat, I didn't sleep, I didn't get around any family members. I was preparing myself to die. When I woke up March 11, 2005, here's what happened. I woke up and everything. See, I spent my whole life internalizing things. I would internalize every emotion. I would open up a door on the inside of me and I would put that emotion on the inside of that door and I would close it. March 11, 2005, I woke up and every door was open. It was the equivalent when people say they're in pain. That's why I tell you, believe them. It was equivalent of somebody parking a semi truck on my chest. I was in that type of pain where I didn't see a way out, and I told myself if this is how pain is going to be, I'm over it. I got myself up eventually, and I got gas. I had no idea I was going to drive myself to the Golden Gate Bridge. I had no idea nothing about the Golden Gate Bridge. You got to understand my story when I tell you this because you'll see the God in it. I had no idea about the Golden Gate Bridge. I never knew it was iconic for suicide attempts. That morning, March 11, 2005, I woke up and as I'm pumping my gas, the gas clump clicked, and my brain said, Golden Gate Bridge, get there. I never knew it was iconic for suicide attempts. I had no idea that thousands of people who have jumped off that bridge or thousands of people after me will come after me. I had no history of the bridge. It's 2005, so we don't have YouTube yet. We don't have Yahoo. We don't have all these different things, Google and all these different things that we have now. Where all this readily information is right there for us. We don't have that, so I didn't know anything about this place. I know that I had to get there. And I knew that when I got there, my life would be better. That's all I knew. And so it was a sense of relief that came over me. But I was hoping that whoever I asked on the way, because we didn't have Waze and all these other Google Maps and all this stuff. So I was hoping whoever I asked for directions would look at me and ask me why I wanted to go. That never happened. So when I got out there, I knew my life was going to be over. And I got out there, I walked around for about 5 minutes, which felt like 5 hours, and then I stopped because I couldn't find one reason to live. And when I looked into that water, see, when you look into the water, most people go out there, all they see is water. But when I looked into that water on that day, March 11, 2005, on that morning, I looked in that water and I saw peace. I saw not having to be a burden. I saw, Kevin, you don't have to get up and lie about who you are. You don't have to live in this pain anymore. I knew I had to get in that water, and I immediately prepared myself for impact. I took a couple steps back and I prepared myself to jump over that railing and get into that water. I never prepared what was going to happen over the next couple seconds. As I prepared myself, I literally jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge. Most people see that photo, they think that I climbed the railing or somehow I crawled or somehow. Kevin Berthia, so we get this clear. When you see this photo, Kevin Berthia jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge. As I'm mid-flight in the air, my first responder, Sergeant Briggs, who you see in the photo standing over me, he yelled something from a distance. We don't even know what he yelled, but it was enough of a distraction to get me to grab onto the railing as I'm in the air with my left arm and swing around. And now I, grabbed the railing and I smacked into the railing. Now the greatest part about the first miracle is that I don't even know how I landed on that railing. The second miracle is if I would have picked any other place on the bridge, that railing, that cord that you see my feet, there's no other place on the Golden Gate Bridge that has that cord. I picked the only spot. Any other place doesn't have that cord for me to land on. So second miracle. Third miracle is yelling at me for the next 10, 15 minutes, trying to get my attention. And I'm yelling at him get back because I didn't come here to have a conversation. I came here to jump. This is March, San Francisco. I'm afraid of heights. Two things that I hate: heights and being cold. I'm 220 feet in the air, 4 seconds from my death. It's freezing cold. I didn't come here to have a conversation. He could have gave up on me on any time. Anytime he could have said, all right, this dude ain't having me. I'm yelling at him at the top of my lungs. My arms are not holding on. There's nothing about me that's holding on. If you look at that photo, both of my feet are sticking up. I tell people all the time, if you want to see a miracle, just look at this photo. Both of my feet are sticking up. The arm that you can't see is underneath my other arm because I'm freezing cold. The other arm that you think is holding on. Neither arm is holding on. The only thing that's supporting me is the wind is pushing my back up against the railing. It's like it's so windy, so the wind is supporting my back. But in this situation, that's why I tell people, when people say they don't have time to create a safe place in order for people to have a conversation, this officer who didn't even know me created a safe place in an unsafe place in the world for me to have a conversation. And for the next 92 minutes, he just listened to me. He just listened to me, and I talked about everything that brought me to the bridge. I don't listen to what I'm saying to you. He didn't come up trying to be a problem solver. See, we try to be people's problem solvers. He came and he just listened. You could have brought me any first responder in the world. If they didn't have compassion and connection, he had connection with me and he had compassion. Those are the things. 2 ears, 1 heart. That's what saved me. Not FBI training, not first responder training. Human compassion, connection. The same things that we are misconnecting from people in the world because they feel disconnected. We have to reconnect them and then have the compassion for them. Connection and compassion. 92 minutes, he listened to me. I told him everything I've been wanting to tell people, everything that I've internalized, and everything I want to tell my biological mom, my biological dad, everything. At 16 years old, I got the opportunity to meet my biological mom. And I tell people all the time, if you want to meet your biological parents, please get help first, because I never was prepared for the wave of emotion. At one point in my life, I had 4 parents. Everybody said, you're so lucky to have 4 parents, but you don't realize the weight that it comes with when you have to take care of 3 of them. You don't know the weight that it comes with when you're a child, when you're supposed to be a child, or you haven't been a child. For the last 28 and a half years, almost 29 years, I've been taking care of 3 out of the 4 parents. Like, it's a weight that comes with that. And so I was overwhelmed. I got to a point where I got overwhelmed. I'm telling all these emotions. I'm telling all these different things. The moment people feel heard, they get healed. They have to be heard, though. It's something that happens when you're heard. It's a validation that happens on the inside of you when you are heard. When you feel that it's not about understanding people, because you'll never understand what people go through. So stop trying to say, get to a point of understanding. It's a get to a point of creating safe places where people can be heard. Like, I got off that bridge because I was heard. I got off that bridge because he reminded me that I need to be there for my daughter's birthday, which was April 6th. I went to the bridge in March. My daughter's birthday was the next month. I was at my daughter's birthday only because he reminded me how important it was that I needed to be there. Mm-hmm. Like, and after all that, I went to the bridge. You would think I have, psychiatric evaluation and all these different things. I went home, and 14 days later, after I got home from a psychiatric hospital, I went home and found out that picture was front page of the San Francisco Chronicle. And I immediately shut down because I didn't know who I was going to go back to, because I spent every second, every minute, every hour making the world think like he had it together. Listen to me. For the next 8 years, I didn't go to therapy. I went to the Golden Gate Bridge, and after that, I didn't go to therapy. I didn't go to outpatient. When I say I'm a walking miracle, it's because for the next 8 years, I would attempt another 10 times. The Golden Gate Bridge was my attempt number 11. After the bridge, I would attempt another 10 times. By 2013, I was up to 22 attempts. And my New Year's resolution for 2013 was to get myself out of pain again. When people say that that no matter how much they life, if they can't see anything, look at my life. I am so undeserving of all of this, and I just kept going and kept thriving. God said, no, I have something better for you, and I refuse to allow you to kill yourself before I give it to you, because he won't. I've tried everything outside of getting my hands on a gun. Alcohol poison. I've cut. I've tried to drown myself. I've tried to crash my go over overpasses on freeway. Every possible thing outside of getting my hands on a gun. I've tried, and he said he's denied it. 2013 came around, and I was like, okay, I'm getting myself out of pain. Officer Briggs, the officer you see in the photo, my mom wrote him a letter in 2005 thanking him for saving my life. He held on to that letter for 8 years. He was going to be honored in 2013 for a Lifesavers Award, and they would honor him in 2013. He held on to that letter. When they was thinking about somebody presenting him the award, he thought about my mom because of that letter. So I thank my mom for writing that letter because she started the transition of this. And they reached out to her. Her only job was to get to New York. She lied to me about what I was going to New York for. I get out to New York and I meet Officer Briggs for the first time face to face. Now I'm from Oakland, California. I've never had a good run-in with law enforcement. We don't talk to the police.
Right.
We don't deal with the police. We don't say hi to the police. Nothing. I shook this man. I shook this man's hand in New York, and it was the first time in my life that I shook an officer's hand, and I didn't have that eerie feeling. He completely changed the dynamic of how I looked at cops, and now I completely from at that moment on May 7th, 2013, I looked at cops and I looked at them and knew that they were doing their job and they were law enforcement. I looked at them as people and not these people that just put these uniform on. Are these bad cops in the world? Yes. Are they all like that? Absolutely not. I've had the opportunity for the last 10 years to travel and work, and so I can vouch. But I talk openly that night in New York for the first time in my life. I spent my whole life lying to the world about who I was. I spent my whole life lying to the world, making them think that I had it all together. And I talk openly and honest about everything I was dealing with March 11, 2005, and everything that took me to the bridge. And I remember coming down off that stage. It was about 300, 400 people in that room. And I remember them giving me a standing ovation, which I've never had in my life. So I didn't know what that was. And I remember a line started to form at my table, and the first lady in line is the reason why I gave my life. Amongst all the moms and dads I've spoken to since year to date, she's the first. And I remember she was standing in line first, and she was crying, and she came up to me. She said, I have to talk to you. I told my husband, I have to tell you this. I didn't even want to get in line and talk to you, but I have to tell you this. She said, my son Jacob lost his battle 5 years ago. He said, and that tore me up. I started crying even more. She said, I need you to look at me. She said, I need you to look at me, Kevin. She said, tonight I'm going to sleep. She said, I haven't slept in 5 years, but tonight I'm going to sleep. And the reason why I'm going to sleep, Kevin, is because you told your story. I can better understand what Jacob is going through now. Two things happened. If you want to talk about a moment that can change your life, two things happened in that moment. I realized, one, I wasn't alone. And the greatest moment of all, and what we all need to live by, is it was so much bigger than me. How could the worst day of my life give you hope? How could the worst day of my life instill anything that can help you? And I knew that the California Kevin had to meet the New York Kevin, because the New York Kevin was different from the California Kevin. The New York Kevin wanted to inspire hope. The New York Kevin just found his purpose. The New York Kevin wanted to live, but I knew they had to meet. I flew from New York to California on May 8th, 2013. And I had to make some decisions by myself, because I was in a dead end relationship. I was in a dead end job. Everything around me in my life was so that I can die. I had put things in life that remind me that I wanted to die. See, I didn't have anything in my life that made me want to live. See, when you want to live, you'll put things in your life that make you want to live. But when you want to die, you have things in life that encourage how you feel on the inside. So I had to get rid of everything. And on May 21st, 2013, I woke up, and it was the first day I didn't want to die. I've been keeping track every single day, and I've given my life. I said, God, if you make sense of the bridge, then I will glorify you, and I will give it to you. See, I haven't been able to give everything in my life to God like I gave the bridge. That's why I can speak about the bridge like I did. But it has definitely been like for the last 10 years, when I say that I've been able to speak in every single state in America. This same story, when I say that I've been able to impact people, when I've been able to, I always question God. I said, why the 22 attempts, when I tell you that every attempt had a purpose, that I've met people, that my attempt at 17 that I did, that nobody else knew about. If I didn't do that attempt at 17, I never would have connected with Diane that was in Montana. My attempt that I did at 23, if I never would have did that attempt, I never would have connected with with Daniel that was in Wyoming. You see what I'm saying? I was so worried about why I was doing it, not knowing that I was doing it for other people. And for the last 10 years, I've been able to been blessed enough to travel and just share this story and make people understand that even in your darkest moments, you can't be defined, because 29:11 says, I put everything inside you to define who you are. It doesn't change based on the things you've done, right? Your purpose is your purpose, and it cannot change and will not change. And you can't expire yourself before you get there. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't go over. I try to give as much time. I try to explain as much as I can.
You
Whatever.
good, bro. You good. You good. You good.
It's all
Listen,
good, man.
bro. You have bro. I didn't listen. It has literally helped me right now, like, bro, like for real. Even sometimes we like to super spiritualize thing and just not deal with life.
Yes,
You
sir.
know what I mean? And if we have to just sit back and deal with life, and yeah, my brother, he's listen, I've had to, me and my god sister had to literally go to his door and bang on his door and knock because depression used to take him over and lock him in like bad. We have literally knocked on the door, beat on the door, and sung "This Little Light of Mine" and all kinds of stuff, literally, till he opened the door. You know what I mean? And knew, like, we ain't leaving here until I see your face.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? I don't care what you can close the door after that, but we need to see you.
Yeah, yeah, and it's that important. We
Yeah.
gotta stop. We gotta get out this idea that it's so hard. It's too hard to have a conversation. And I tell people all the time. What's hard? Talking to parents who's lost a child. What's hard? Going to a funeral where somebody's died by suicide, and you look around in the room and you look at all this love that this person couldn't even feel. That's hard. It's not hard having a conversation. It's not hard asking the necessary questions because that person is here. You are willing and able. We are all built-in first responders. We don't need accolades. God has assigned us to each other because He wouldn't put 8.5 billion people on the planet just for us to feel alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't know how I was going to make it through this. But just like you said, each piece there's been a connection. And most people don't know, a few people know. I dated somebody who did jump off the Golden Gate Bridge and kill themselves.
Mm.
And so that's why I wasn't sure where I was going to be. But I knew that people need to hear your story. They need to understand how, even when you got everything going on around you, your whole inside is somewhere else. And battling depression it's a demon that is so strong that you cannot get over. And you can start out having an amazing day. I would go do events, have a great turnout, and I'd leave there and I'd be in tears.
Mhm, mhm.
And couldn't tell you why I was crying.
Mhm.
Couldn't tell you nothing. All I knew is that I was devastated. It would be gut wrenching tears and just trying to make it through the day. And sometimes depressed people find depressed people.
Mhm.
So when I met Frank, we were in the same space. So we kind of could help each other, but his was just a little bit more. And no matter what I said, nothing could stop him. And the final thing that came was he just said, I just can't do this anymore. I just cannot do this no more. And today is the day I'm done. And I'm like, what are you talking about? We're not going to do this. And when the phone calls started coming, they said, Frank's on the bridge right now. And I'm like, oh, what's he doing? Walk across the bridge? No, he's on the bridge. He's on the other side. He's about to jump. And what made it so hard, Frank was a Golden Gate Transit driver. So he was a bus driver who drove across the bus, across that bridge every day. So the drivers was seeing him on the other side of the bridge and having to continue to drive their routes with people on the bus.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
this is wiping them out.
Mhm.
And they're still having to say, I got to keep driving. But the tears are coming down their face. And they're just getting to one side and they're just stopping the buses because at this point, now they say he's gone.
Mm.
And on the radios, you start hearing Frank jumped, Frank jumped, Frank jumped. And I'm like, what do you mean he jumped? And he's really gone. And no matter how you try to spin it, it can't be spent no way. So when God uses somebody after 22 times, it's because he has a designated place and space for you to be in. And nobody else can be in that place. It wasn't Frank's, it wasn't his journey. But where he has you is the journey, because each place you're now connecting with somebody and you're saving that person, and they didn't know what was going on with their story, and you just closed the chapter for them. And that's why people need to hear your testimony. That's why they need to see you, and emotions just take over because it's so much impacted in all the years that they've been in. The mother that come up and say her son, you closed that chapter for her, and he was gone, but she still was grieving, still struggling with it. And until you gave what God had inside of you, that was what closed the chapter for her. And I mean, I have no
Bro,
other.
you listen.
I have no
I
other.
just thank you, bro. I appreciate you. I thank you for coming on and sharing your story, your amazing testimony, actually, uh, of yeah, it's amazing, bro. So I really
I appreciate it.
appreciate you. You got a whole lot of comments coming in.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, we have to get better at understanding this and know that this is something we got to deal with. It's
Yeah.
not going anywhere. Our community, we sit and make this top, but we won't talk about it. Like, we sit here and we think that going to church is gonna pray this thing out of us, and it's just not. It's beyond prayer. Like, we haven't been taught that internally is more important, that you have to love yourself. Like, so if you're struggling, if somebody out here, if you're struggling in right now, you're struggling right now, let me tell you right now, you got to be okay with where you at.
Hmm.
We have to be comfortable and get okay. We try to pull people from where they're at and not knowing that they end up going right back. We have to make them comfortable with that so they can learn the tools, so that they get responsible enough to create their own journey so that they won't ever go back to that spot. Like, it's not about you. It's about them. If you want to help people, it's not about you. It's about them. It's really about them. So if you really are assigned and you want to help somebody, don't tell them what they should do. That's what you'll do in their situation.
That's good.
Stop telling people what they, because it'd be different if you was in that situation and things would, it'd be different. So stop telling people what they should do. Like, stop. Like support sometimes gonna be silent. It's not all about giving them all the answers. It's about sending them to the source. We have one person has all the answer, and your job is to get them to the answer solver. Like, I
Hmm.
don't solve nobody's problems. I don't. When people come to me, I don't solve their problems. In 10 years of anybody that's inboxed me, I haven't solved not one person's problems. I just get them to the source. I get them to the source, man, because I can't solve your problems, but he can. And that's just my job. It's intercessionally. If I pray you through, I'll pray down heaven for you, but I cannot solve your problems. I'm gonna get you to the person. I'm gonna get you to the story. I'm gonna restore your faith. And when you come into my life, I'm gonna have enough faith for both of us. Yeah, because I'm not expecting people to have enough to have faith when they come in. They come in broken. My ministry is for broken people that have no faith, because I have enough faith for you. I'm lean on my faith. And then when you get enough, then you're good. Then I'm allowed to let you go. That's just what it is. And so I always tell people, if you know somebody, if you need help, I am here. My name is Kevin Berthia. I'll give you my cell phone number. I'll give you my email. You cannot say you're alone no more. You can't say nobody understands. I get it. I understand. I live it. He didn't take me out of it. Most people live in have a story of coming out of it. He keeps me in it so that I can keep people understanding of how. I prayed to God. I said, don't ever take me out of it.
Hmm.
Don't ever take me out of it. I'm not the same. I'm not the same me if I'm out of it. I got a heart to be in it. I'm a frontline worker. I'm a servant. Leave me in it, so that when people when they see me in it, they see you in it with them. I'm done, man. Y'all gonna have me start preaching. I'm good.
Bro, this is good, man. Listen, we thank you for coming on again. You have to come back. You have to come back and join us.
Absolutely,
We
man.
appreciate you,
We
man.
family now, man.
Yes, sir.
Anything,
Yes,
you
sir.
got my number. Y'all got my email.
Yeah.
Brother Christopher, if I can help you along your way and your journey any kind of way, you give my number, man.
Yep, I gotta get
You
you.
call me 3 o'clock in the morning, man. I'm up. I can't understand why I'm up. You call me.
Yeah.
That's just my as a brother, man. We gotta connect. We gotta connect each other. Like we gotta stay connected. You don't have to battle. Nobody got to battle alone, man. I love y'all, man. Y'all my heart now.
Yep. Yep. Yes, sir. Same here. Same
All
here.
right, now.
Man. All right.
Thank you so much.
Listen, that my guy, he did his thing. Whew, this was a good one. This was a good one. Listen, I need you guys to since we're here. Um, I need you guys to pray for my little cousin Josh. As we know, his baby's on life support, and I got off because he called me, and we need to just pray. So if you guys can keep up little Josh in your prayers, there's some specific things that's going on that we need to have stop. And we believe in God all the way. I just told Josh, that's why I got off real quick because he called and he was a little upset. We believe in God all the way. We know God for who he is. We know God as a miracle worker. We know God as a healer. We know God as a provider. We know God as whatever we need him to be. And right now that they need him to do a few things with the baby. And we believe in God. The baby was born August 31st and has been in the hospital ever since. Had surgery after surgery. We are trusting and believing God that he has the last word and he has the final say. So I need you guys to come together with me and pray for little Josh Kemp Jr. and just ask the Lord just to do what he does, heal his body, touch his heart, his brain, the new bleeding that they've just found. We just stop it and just we trust in God. We believe in God. We believe the report of the Lord. We're not doing this thing just to be doing it. We're not believing in God just to believe. We're believing in God because that's what his words say he is. He is a healer. He is our rescue. So we believe God for total, complete healing. We do. We believe God for healing. And I ask you guys to pray for his mother and his dad, that they have peace in their minds and that the peace that surpasses all understanding just overshadow them and take that burden off of them because they're burdened right now. I just got. I feel it, and I didn't want to. I told him I'd call him back after the show, but it's just a lot right now, and we're just praying for the entire family. It's a lot going on, but we know who to run to. We know who to run to. We was taught to know who to run to. I want to thank my boy Kevin.
Yes.
What can you say? You know what I mean? We let him loose and he did his thing. Kevin, you are welcome on our platform anytime, bro. Just come back and just let us know. Let me know. Holler at me and just let me know when you want to come back. I really, really appreciate you coming and sharing your testimony with the world. You guys do us a favor, share this with your people on Facebook because everybody got to listen to this.
And if you know somebody who is hurting, please make sure share it right on their page.
Yes.
Because you may not think they're going to watch it then, but at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning,
yes,
they'll watch it right then. And he's right there to help.
Yes.
He's right there. It's when in the what I call the bewitching hours, when most people are asleep. That's when depression comes in like a flood.
Yeah.
It comes in like a flood, and you'll be up looking at the walls. Everybody else will be asleep. It's dark, so it's all got you confused and everything.
Yeah.
And
I appreciate you, bro. You're my bro. We finally got you on here, and listen. And with that, thank you all for coming. Listen, we know that we are never alone, so we're gonna let this what Walter Hawkins and Lefson and Choir take us on out with this song, and we will see y'all next week.